Hello and welcome to the Daily Telegraph NRL Podcast. I'm Brent Read, joined by Whaley, forgot my name then, Fatima, Kdouh. It's Origin Week, it's an exciting time. Interstate rivalries alive and well. How are you feeling? Edgy? You're both New South Welsh people, so you'd be quite nervous, I'd imagine.
Nervous about what?
About losing, obviously.
Why would we lose?
Okay.
I think there's a freshness about this New South Wales Blues team.
Okay.
And I know there was a bit of conjecture about, obviously we'll go through the Teddy Edwards stuff, but the makeup of the bench and the rest of it. But I like what Madge has put together, and we get Teddy back. So, even after losing Dylan Edwards, arguably the best, fullback of his generation comes in. So I don't know, there's no reason to be nervous.
No reason to be nervous. What about you?
Well,
Edgy?
yeah,
You
no,
look
not at
nervous.
all.
Look edgy.
I look nervous. No, I'm all good. No, after spending a little bit of time in camp with the Blues over the weekend.
You went up to Lura, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. How was it up there? Cold?
Freezing,
Yeah.
but it was like where they were staying was beautiful.
Yep.
They just kind of had no distractions.
Yep.
No one was really bothering them. They
Just
were
the
just
way Madge likes it.
just the way he likes it. So it was great. They were they just looked nice and relaxed and really got to bond together as a team.
Shouldn't you be nervous, Reedy? This is about the time that all these illnesses and
We've had
injury scares.
Harry's had his, what do you have? A bit of diarrhea or something, Harry? A bit of gastro?
Gastro?
A bit of gastro, we had that. No
That was
panic.
nice and early though.
That shows you how confident Billy is, because we haven't had any late injury scares or frightening moments. But the news of the week's been obviously Dylan Edwards, James Tedesco, Sagi, obviously Teddy, I think he played 22 Origin games in a row or something. He was captain of this New South Wales, captain of Australia. Madge drops him last week, and then in comes Dylan Edwards, and then sadly for Dylan, he gets ruled out with a quad problem. So Teddy was the obvious guy to bring in, right? But devastated for Dylan Edwards, because he's been knocking on the door for 3-4 years now. Been the form fullback, arguably in the comp. Well, Reece Walsh, Kalen, I suppose.
We're talking about Clive Churchill, medalist and a 3-time premiership winner. So,
tough for him though.
Oh, absolutely tough for him. And for somebody who has been as successful in clubland as Dylan Edwards, if it wasn't for Teddy, he'd be the first picked in that number one jumper. Oh, I don't know, maybe Tommy Turbo. Oh, yeah, but I just feel like for Origin, I always felt when you watch Dylan Edwards play and the effort he puts in and just his support play, he's also, it doesn't really matter now because neither of them are playing, but I felt in the past that while Nathan Cleary was there, if they had Dylan Edwards at the back, that would really unlock Nathan Cleary at Origin level. But anyway, so unfortunate, and he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. So he gets his opportunity in such controversial circumstances, and he would have hated that, right? Because he doesn't love doing media. That first day he comes into camp, everyone's in his face, it's a bit full on, and he just, he took it in his stride, and he said all the right things about coming in, over Teddy, but these things happen, right? And just the timing of it is, they're saying it's not that serious, but it's just the kind of injury that you can't risk taking into Origin, because if you lose him in the first 5 or 10 minutes, then you've got problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you've been around them, Pam.
Yeah.
You were there when Dylan was, when he was in camp, and then obviously out. What did you make of what happened over the weekend?
It was a really weird one, because on that the training session on Saturday, so it was their first opposed session of the week, and it was against Panthers SG ball players and just random players throughout their pathway system, and everyone was looking at Nico. How's Nico? How's he going to go? Is he going to?
Did you get thrown out of the session?
Yeah.
Or were you allowed to watch the whole thing?
No, you don't.
You got thrown out.
Thrown out. Yeah.
Good old days are gone. Right?
Yeah, the days are gone. No, so you watch the warm up, and so everyone's looking at Nico.
Yeah.
How
Stretching.
is he? How does he look? He looks like he's running pretty good. So I felt pretty confident after that. Nico's going to be fine. And then we write all our stories. Yeah, we get thrown out. Then we go to a cafe, write all our stories, and then maybe like half an hour later, we get the call about Dylan Edwards. And so, it was just a very crazy couple of hours there. But it's just, you feel really sad for him, because this was his chance. He's waited so long for it. And now the question kind of becomes, what happens if Teddy kills it?
Yeah. It's funny, back in the good old days, we'd stay for the this is the first year we haven't been able to stay for the entire training session. And you would have seen all this unfold a year ago. Yeah. Would have been, we would have had the cat phones out.
Well, wasn't it last year that Payne Haas sort of limped off in Kdouh? So, like in the past, they would make us turn our cameras off after that first sort of allowed period, but no one was kicking you off.
They had fans in there watching.
Yeah.
But now, even at New South Wales Centre of Excellence now, have you seen all the fences that they've blacked it all out? So all the fences have got all of... So when you're standing on the field on the inside, it's all pictures of, New South Wales origin moments and things like that. But from the outside, you can't see in.
It's peak Madge.
Is it really?
Peak Madge.
Just when was the 2014 grand final, he did that to Redfern Oval, the fences. So, it's definitely a bit of a change with how much access we have, for sure. But... the drama still...
Well, you raise a good point. If Teddy comes in and brains it, just say New South Wales win, Teddy comes in, wins man of the match.
Yeah.
What's he do?
Well, he keeps him.
Keeps him?
Of course he keeps him.
Okay.
I mean, the thing with Tedesco is he's never let anybody down every time he's been in a Blues jersey. And there's a very good chance he comes out and he is the best player for the Blues on Wednesday night. He's done it before. He thrives in that arena. And if the Blues win with him at fullback, then they're saying Dylan Edwards might be out for 1 or 2 weeks, but even then, by the time they announce the next team, he probably hasn't played any football. So they potentially take him in again without knowing, there'll be an injury cloud over him. Who would you not? Would you bring Edwards back or?
What do you reckon?
I don't know. It's a tough one, isn't it?
I think you bring him back, to be honest. I think you bring him back.
I think
you've made the decision. You've got to back yourself.
I kind of lean that way too.
Yeah.
But then that's also, God, that's a huge call though, isn't it?
It's a massive call. And huge call on Teddy. If he comes back, wins man of the match, they play out of their skin. The old adage is you don't change a winning team. But, I think you've gone down that path.
Yeah.
How do you reckon Jakey would feel when Teddy... Jakey's a nice...
He would have been so conflicted.
So, what... Can you imagine what that phone call would have been like between Jake and Teddy when Jake called Teddy to say, mate, I'm captain?
Yeah.
Can you imagine what that would have been like?
I wonder if I had...
he would have been apologising.
He would have apologised.
Jake is so nice that when Teddy came back into camp, he probably would have called him a mate and said, you can be captain, if you can have it back if you want. Like he's that kind of... would have been an awkward moment for him. But again, Jake is another one who's absolutely earned the right to be able to be New South Wales captain. So... yeah, it's awkward all around. It was interesting. Brad Fittler mentioned that he thought that initial conversation phone call when Madge picked up the call to the phone to Teddy to say, "We need you. You're back in," would have been, the way he said it was not so warm and a few little words said. So, but I don't think Teddy's the kind of guy who'll go into camp kind of holding a grudge with the fact that he got.
We spoke to him last night, obviously.
And did not get an air of that whatsoever. He just seemed so happy to be there, and he was, laughing, and he was in a really good mood, and he seemed calm. And
there's got to be a bit of him that goes in with a point to prove.
Has to be,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What more could? Yeah, of course.
Because these guys are
like, you want to dump me? Here we go.
And they get to where they are in the game because they're great competitors and they've got great self-belief and when a bloke like that gets dropped like that and then suddenly gets a late call up, I'm sure he's thinking to himself, well, I'm going to show you got it wrong.
Yeah.
You got it, don't you?
Were you on Triple M yesterday with Gordy when he said...
I wasn't on when he said it, but
what did you make of that?
I was on a bit later.
So Gordy said that there would be an air of embarrassment about being recalled, right?
Oh, well, Gordon Tallis is a great Queenslander, right? So anything you can do to stir the pot a little bit. No, I don't think there. I don't think there would be with James. I think as I said, I think James goes in there with a point to prove, and he's probably. I don't think he'd be embarrassed. I think he'd be determined to. And if I'm Queensland, I'm really wary of him. The issue might be, and one of the criticisms of Teddy. In Origins is that maybe he overplays his hand and tries to get his hand in the ball too much, tries to and maybe takes some of the possession away from the half, the control away from the halves. I wonder whether Teddy's got to be on guard that he doesn't try to do too much and doesn't affect Jerome Luai and Nico Hines' ability to run the team and play the way they want to play. I mean, it's intriguing for it to come this late, how significant. I mean, I'd imagine by now you've set the way you're going to play, right?
Yeah.
And then on a Sunday, 3 hours before the game, your fullback changes. Now, they're sort of similar footballers, right? They want to be around the ball a lot, but there's subtle changes you'd have to make. It doesn't give them much time to make them because they've done most of the hard work by now.
Yeah, well, they do have one big session today before, obviously, like captain's runs. So any of those tweaks will have to be made today. But I find it hard to believe that Madge is going to throw out the playbook because Teddy's in there. And Teddy's been around long enough, he's experienced enough, he'll know. And he's played with Luai before. Yeah. So, I think whatever game plan that Madge had to begin with, obviously because it was a game plan that didn't necessarily include the way that Teddy likes to play Origin. You know what I mean? Like you said, maybe he's, has too many possessions. But part of that too, when you think back on it, is, as great as Nathan Cleary is, and Nathan Cleary himself has admitted that he hasn't necessarily taken Origin by the scruff of the neck. So a lot of him maybe overplaying his hand has been on the fact that they've struggled to find a dominant half in Origin. So, look, I don't know. I don't think Teddy will have a point to prove, but I also don't think Teddy's the kind of player who's going to go out there and want to make Wednesday night about him.
He might need to we've got an untested halves combination though there too, so he also has the ability then to take the game if he needs to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what about the Mighty Maroons? We've had a I shouldn't say we're impartial, aren't we, as journalists? the Queenslanders have had a very smooth preparation. The only concern was Harry Grant had a little food scare, but he's okay now. I saw him interviewed the other day, Harry, so it's been really relatively calm in Queensland, and they're favourites, the Maroons, apparently, although everyone knows that Queensland are always the underdogs when it comes to
I was going to say, according to who are they the favourites?
Always the underdogs.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I guess it speaks to the fact that how much they are the favourites, in that they lost somebody like Cam Munster, but it hasn't been like the main talking point. Like nobody's been banging on about, oh my God, but he is a massive loss for them. When you think about players made for Origin, on the flip side of things, just his unpredictability, the X factor, the way that he's a game breaker, like they lose that from Cam Munster, because Cam Munster's the kind of guy who can, when you need something at the death, he can come up with it. And I don't think, but maybe that's just, how Billy Slater is. Cam Munster's not there, so they just move on with Tom Dearden and hope for the best.
Well, I would say Tommy's one game he's played of Origin, he was absolutely outstanding. And Cam hasn't been Cam Munster's obviously carried that groin problem or hip problem most of the year, and I reckon he hasn't been the same player this year.
But I think Origin is the kind of arena that he thrives in.
Well, that's where he's been brilliant at Origin level. But I think Tommy Dearden's shown he can handle it and do a good job there. And obviously they've got a lot of weapons. It's a great spine. Reece Walsh, Harry Grant. Daly's obviously been a steady hand for a long time in Origin. Although Daly's form's been a bit down as well, I reckon, this year.
Yeah. But that's another thing
the game before Origin he was better, but his form the month before that I thought was he was a bit shaky.
Yeah. Well, the Cowboys they've been very, very patchy, the Cowboys, all year. So it's not like, the Queenslanders go in there with a halves combination that have been killing it.
So you're basically confirming that Queensland should be underdogs. Is that what you're saying?
I said the Blues would win.
Is that how you interpreted those comments?
I said the Blues would win. So to me they are the favourite.
What about Tommy?
At home.
Tommy, I mean, Tommy Dearden. Do you expect? What do you expect from him, Pam? I mean, as I said, he's played Origin before and been. I think from memory, I called in.
It was in 22.
Yeah, and he was outstanding in that game, but. The Cowboys haven't been great this year, but he's one of those guys he's always trying.
Yeah, I think so too, and he just seems kind of unflappable, just calm, just gets his job done. Yeah. I think that's kind of all he'll need to do. All they need to do is just get the ball out to Reece Walsh, right?
Easy plan.
That's pretty easy.
Easy plan.
Seems pretty
we should touch on Reece boy because he's probably the great threat for Queensland. I mean, he's such a good player, and he's an excitement machine. Mm-hmm. And they love him. His speed and adds another dimension to the Queensland game when he gets his ball out the back and puts the accelerator down. That's that's going to put the fear of God in New South Wales, I imagine.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't think Madge has got a plan to
I'm sure
shut
he's
him
got
down?
a plan,
Maybe he's borrowing
but-
from Des Hasler. There was the yarn over the weekend about how has Des Hasler figured out how to shut down Reece Walsh, and it's just pretty much have, you know, the outside backs just on him like a rash. So, he is. He's probably, when you think about the team that the Blues have named, I don't know whether we have the same sort of X Factor player in Reece Walsh on the Blues side. So, yeah, he's probably going to be the one that you want to shut down the most.
Selwyn Kdouh also to an extent as well, because if they bring him on, you know, late.
What's really intriguing about how he's
how
going to be used,
are they going to
isn't
play?
it?
And that is the thing that scares me, is that we don't have New South Wales don't kind of have that.
Yeah.
You know, when the game is really getting into the trenches towards the back end, someone with a bit of energy, has to come from those starting, you know, 13 in that back line.
Yeah, that's probably another reason Madge couldn't really afford to take a risk on Dylan Edwards, because your bench, they have no backs on the bench. I think their cover for the outside backs is Hudson Young, who's trained at centre in Canberra on occasions, but
From memory, he might have shifted out there during a game every now and then when they've had like injuries or something like that. But
But Cobbo is really intriguing the way they use him, because there's a chance maybe he doesn't get in the field, Selwyn Cobbo, during this game. But if he gets on the field, I imagine at some point maybe he plays in the middle of the field, because Queensland have done that over the years. Kalen's played there, Cooper played there, Benny Hunt's played there as sort of a middle, sort of a lock, almost a roaming guy in the middle of the field. And I reckon Selwyn's a big dude, right? I mean, you can imagine late in games they bring on Selwyn Cobbo for the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Could be unbelievable.
Yeah.
Could be a disaster.
Could be a
but
disaster.
It could be unbelievable.
Could be a total waste of an interchange player. However, it could be
knowing
Selwyn.
I was just going to say, knowing Selwyn Cobbo, it's probably leaning on the more genius side.
And Billy's obviously a tactically very smart Billy. You know, they talk about back in Melbourne back in the day, he came up with all these trick plays, and when he was playing Billy, so he knows how to. I'd imagine he'd know how. In his mind, he'd know how he's going to use Selwyn in that role.
Yeah,
and he could come up with some really different ways, I reckon.
Just the sight of Billy Slater in like a Maroons jersey in the colours or something, it just sends chills up your spine as a New South Wales fan. Do you agree? Just
absolutely.
Billy Slater, just having him anywhere near Origin is scary.
Now, what about the women's Origin? It's a sellout.
It's a sellout.
How good's that?
Yeah.
I watched that first game. It was a good game. Bad result, good game.
Yeah. Well, it was a great result, and then the so it's a home game here for New South Wales girls. But yeah, just to have a sellout in Newcastle, we obviously know what kind of a community they have up there. They love their rugby league. So sold out, a week or so out from the game. Incredible. So it'll be over 30,000 people there. And this, again, will be another record. So it'll be another world record for a standalone women's rugby league match. So they're just smashing down the records.
Yeah, the ratings were amazing at a game one as well.
Great, weren't they?
So there's definitely it was the right move to go to a series rather than just have the two games. And
absolutely.
If I remember correctly, I'm just going to gloat here a little bit. When we previewed the first Women's Origin, did both of you doubt that the Blues could?
Yeah.
I can't remember that far back. Please.
No, I mean, I'll absolutely put my hand up. I thought the fact that they hadn't played any footy or they didn't have a club kind of or a state competition going into it was going to be a bigger factor than it was. But turns out they had the 7-week camp and they just looked so fit and really connected as a team. So I definitely got that wrong.
Are you expecting it to be over then after Thursday night, right? Thursday that game. You expect the series to be over because that'll make it 2-0 if New South Wales win.
Yeah, well, Queensland are going to have to pull something out. They've made a few changes. So they've dropped Zahara Tamara, so she was in the halves in game one, and then so Ali Brigginshaw is back at halfback, so she was at lock. So they've made a few little changes there, but they're Queensland, right? So they backs against the wall kind of stuff. They're always
the siege mentality.
Already, so,
they're always underdogs,
yeah, so you can never really count them out. But yeah, they need a drastic improvement
Yeah, I think the biggest. Sorry to interrupt. No, the biggest thing I noticed because I was up there for Magic Round and covered the first Origin game, and you know I'd remembered you saying sort of the biggest worry about the Blues was the fact that they hadn't had any state competitions leading into it. But the thing is, they looked a lot fresher than Queensland. Yeah. They looked a lot more enthusiastic, a lot more energised, and that was the biggest thing I noticed. That Queensland were, you know, after about 10 minutes, were out on their haunches, and they just looked. Just like that, the preparation, that 7-week camp was perfect for them. So, and they were on a massive high after the game as well. And I think that sort of confidence and momentum is going to bode well for them. And I think that the series will be over.
Well, could be better than playing at a packed crowd at Newcastle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We'll get your predictions. What are you thinking, men's and women's? What do you got?
New South Wales all the way.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Blue.
Hey,
Blue
train.
Oh, I'll go the other way, obviously, as a Queenslander.
In both games?
Both games, okay. Yeah, of course, yeah.
Are we going to have it, was it score prediction, first
I'll give us a score
scorer?
then. What do you got, score prediction? How many points?
Oh, God.
Okay, let's go 18-12 New South Wales in the men's game.
Yep.
Let's go 24-8
Okay.
in the women's game.
What do you got?
Yeah, another bit of a low scorer, both under, we'll say 14-10 to New South Wales in the men's game. And then in the women's game, we'll go make it close, 24-22.
I think Queensland will win by about 22 points in the men's game. Margin, I'm going with the margin.
22 points is...
confident. I'm very confident. And I think the women's game will be a bit closer.
22 points, that is very confident.
You've gone from saying they're the underdogs
to a smash up.
And the women's game will be a bit closer. But it should be an unforgettable night. Now, are you ready for an unforgettable experience at the Panasonic Air Conditioning Sydney Super Night? We're giving you the chance to win a hot lap around Sydney Motorsport Park with Anton De Pasquale from Shell V-Power Racing Team. Feel the adrenaline rush, experience lightning speed, and unleash the power of the Gen 3 supercar. Simply purchase your tickets at Ticketek to the Panasonic Air Conditioning Sydney Super Night and use the code NEWS2024. That's NEWS 2024 at checkout. That's your ticket to automatically enter the draw for this unforgettable money can't buy experience. T's and C's applies. The winner must be available to claim the prize on Monday, July 22, 2024. So, great opportunity there to get to the Sydney Super Night.
Nice.
Yeah, exciting stuff. Okay, let's look at the games on the weekend. Obviously, we had a lot of players, a lot of high quality players, a lot of rep players, but some players came back, including Mitchell Moses for Parramtta. And how good was Mitchell Moses? And how good were Parramtta with Mitchell Moses back?
Yeah, if there's anybody who is going to deliver when they have a point to prove, it's somebody like Mitch Moses, and he's probably got a point to prove for a couple of reasons. Obviously, like he was out injured when BA was axed. He misses out on Origin because of the fact that he's out injured. So yeah, he came out there with a point to prove, and he certainly did it. And they looked like a completely different footy team with him out there. Like not only in terms of how they played their football, it was a really, really good team effort, but just that competitiveness that someone like him and Kdouh add to that team. They really missed them when both of those guys were off the field.
There's a difference he made to the guys around him too, Mitch. I mean, Will Penasini, I think, started the year really well, and Mitch got injured and his game dropped off a bit, but Penasini was outstanding as well. And that was because Mitch was back to sort of unleash him, I guess. But it's interesting, right? Because I'm sure Jerome and Nico sort of sit back and maybe watching that game on Thursday night.
They would be.
And suddenly the blowtorch is on.
The blowtorch is on, the pressure's on.
Mitch would have been there. If Mitch had got back before Origin 1, at any point, he would have been the team for Origin, for the New South Wales team.
Not to go back to Origin talk, but if Mitch was available, do you think it would have been Mitch and Nico rather than Mitch and Jerome?
I think, Mitch would have been there.
Yeah.
I know Mitch would have been there. I suppose it would have been with Nico. I don't know what they would have done, but maybe Nico at 7 and Mitch at 6. I think the plan was always to play Mitch at 6 and Cleary at 7.
Yeah,
so, I think, it puts a lot of pressure on those guys, but he was ridiculously good, Mitch, wasn't he?
Ridiculous, yeah. He's just, we know he has that kind of game in him.
Yeah.
But now it's got, so Para had won 3 games coming into that. Then they just looked outstanding. Their next few games, so they got the Bulldogs this week. And
big game, that's a big game.
It is a big game, yeah. Then they got the Roosters, a bye. Knights, Rabbitohs, Titans, and then a bye.
Good draw.
good draw over these next, 7 weeks.
And they're going to, they need that draw. Like if they're going to sort of find themselves in that finals equation again, that's the perfect draw for them. The only thing is if
they might lose him to Origin.
They might lose Moses to Origin, then that becomes problematic for them. I mean, there is a buy in there, but still they need him on the field for the next 12 games.
I love it when he runs the ball, Mitch. That's when he's at his best. When he runs a football, he's fast. He just creates havoc when he runs a football.
Yeah.
So they're a much better team when he is running the footy.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they've obviously shortlisted coaches now for that job. I expect over the next 24 hours we'll find out who's on that shortlist. I mean, Josh Hannay, Jason Riles, Trent Barrett will be on the list. I imagine Michael Maguire will be on the list for the Parramtta job. Have you got an early favourite? Who do you like?
My feeling is, considering they went for somebody like Wayne Bennett, my feeling is somebody like, now that he's off the table, that someone like Madge Maguire is something, is the kind of coach that they are probably looking for, because there's a reason why you target someone like Wayne Bennett, right? Like you're looking for experience. So, you know, guys like Jason Riles and Josh Hannay have spoken about sort of the next, you know, best up-and-coming head coaches, but they don't necessarily have experience in that head coach role. You do take on a difficult roster for a number of reasons. Like, it's an experienced roster, so you've only got a limited amount of time to actually get success. There's a lot of big personalities in that roster. You need somebody who's going to be able to manage egos, and you need somebody who's going to be able to manage the next crop of guys coming in. Plus, I don't think there's a more high-pressure job in the NRL than being the head coach of the Parramatta Eels. Like, you need somebody who's going to be able to deal with that constant, that it's that relentless expectation, that pressure that never goes away.
Is
not good
failure.
Enough. Yeah. So, and I think something like Madge might be suited to that.
I reckon it's a Hannay-Riles shootout.
You think?
Yeah. I like that too.
I don't think they'll go with Madge, just because maybe there's a perception he's very much like Brad, in terms of the type of coach he is. Just, I don't know. Just stern.
Too stern? Were you saying that Brad was too stern?
Look, maybe a bit more old school than what Rolsey and Josh Hannay are. They're more of the modern coach, right? They're young. They haven't been burnt by the system yet a little bit, like
not jaded yet.
Not jaded, right? And I'm not saying, I imagine do a great job there, I think, but I just get the feeling they're going to look at a fresher coach, and they're the two guys who are knocking on the door for me. I mean, they're the two. You know, Riles, had an apprenticeship. He's been at the Melbourne Roosters. He was an assistant to Eddie Jones with England Rugby. He's back at Melbourne now. Josh has been with, obviously, Cronulla. He's had a little interim stint from memory before at where was that at? Was that the Cows? No, Cronulla. Was it
Cronulla?
Yeah, interim stint at Cronulla. He's been on Billy's staff with Queensland. You know, they would seem two guys who have done everything they need to do.
They've put in all the work,
Yeah.
It would seem, I reckon Riles as well, he has a very similar kind of a resume, or similar as Brad when he was first appointed to Parramatta as well, and they kind of took a chance on him. And
there's this whole perception there aren't coaches out there, and you've got to go back to guys who've, you know, the guys like Madge who've been there before. But I don't agree with that. At some point, you've got to, you know, guys like Rolsey and Josh have been working their butt off to get an opportunity. At some point, you've got to give these guys a go. And I understand Parra's a big club, right? And they've gone almost 40 years without winning a comp. It's a lot of pressure, but it's a good squad. Like we saw the other night. That's still a really good squad.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a squad that's a little bit of tinkering, not a lot of tinkering, just a little bit of. It's somewhat taking over the Dragons. When, you know,
like a lot of tinkering.
Had to overhaul that squad.
Yeah.
This squad just needs a couple of ins and outs.
A couple of ins and outs, but I don't think they've got that many players signed for 2026.
A lot of player options, I think.
As in there is, whoever comes in, I mean, there is room for that sort of overhaul. Barrett, is he? Well,
he'll get an interview, I'd imagine, because he's the interim. But I mean, again, Trent's had a couple of jobs, Manly, Canterbury. He's been in the system the last year or so when they've struggled a bit.
Having said that,
But they looked good the other night.
They did look good the other night, and he's, you know, you can't question his footy brain and his footy smarts. Good attacking coach. Defensive, they probably need some help defensively. You know, if they can put a good defensive coach near Barrett, then maybe that changes things. But and I know he had a really bad win record at Canterbury, but I don't know who could have done any better at Canterbury at that point in time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you mentioned Canterbury. That's a big game this week. Parra Bulldogs. Yeah, the doggies were outstanding last week.
They were.
Against Newcastle.
Yeah.
Just flogged them, really. Flogged them.
Yeah.
And again, it just shows this incremental improvement in the Bulldogs this year. They've just looked better just about every week. They've improved. They lost Josh Addo-Carr for 8 to 10 weeks with a hammy problem, which is a blow, but they've shown, I reckon, this year they've got the resilience to overcome that.
Yeah, well, I think where obviously the biggest improvement that you can see is defensively, right? And that hasn't been incremental. So they've gone from being the worst defensive side in the competition to now the best defensively in areas that you would not even dream that Canterbury would be at the top. I was looking at this yesterday for the column. They have the best defence in the entire competition, better than Penrith in the red zone. You know, to think that the team that was like that many points last year is now conceding the least amount of run meters, the least amount of post-contact meters, has the best red zone defence, is that improvement isn't incremental. I think the attacking improvement has been incremental, but even there, like the way Ciro has been able to help Matt Burton go from everybody saying, oh, no, he's actually a centre, to him actually go, okay, he can do this. Maybe he is a playmaker. And you got Read Marnie playing out of his skin.
Just annoying the hell out of people.
He is, but he is playing some really good football.
Yeah,
I kind of do. Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about it?
Well, he's a Queenslander, obviously. I'm not going to bag him too much. But the thing with Read, the thing that annoys me about Read is, right, if you're going to react to him, react. Don't just do it. Have a dead set go.
No, Reedy, are you advocating for violence?
Well, he half by headbutted him the other day, but it wasn't really a headbutt.
Was it Saifidi?
It was Saifidi,
yeah.
But you know, all these guys are getting sin bin for like. That's not really having a go. They're just niggly little. They're reacting to his niggle by.
But that's on them for reacting to that niggle. We can't be endorsing violence on this show.
We all know.
Yeah.
No.
I'd like to see someone actually. I know Canterbury haven't been as bad this year, but I'd just like to see someone when Canterbury are losing the next game, and if it gets a bit out of hand, it starts to get a bit lopsided. I'd like to see someone just go at Read Marnie and just sledge him the whole game.
I don't think that will end well for Read Marnie, that is.
Well, they got Parra this week, haven't they? So those Parra blokes, there'll be a bit of tension.
They would know. They would know all the source points as well.
Oh, they would. That'll be intriguing to watch, won't it, how they react to Read Marnie.
I think it's the kind of way he's been niggling the last couple of weeks has changed ever since the Hetherington moment. And, you know, he probably got told by Ciro to pull his head in. If he's going to niggle and bear pest, that's fine, but not to the point that it's going to hurt his team. So after being sin-binned, I don't think he's niggled to the point where it's hurt his team. You know, on the weekend it hurt Newcastle, even though the game was over. It was Saifidi who got sin-binned. But it was interesting because Andrew Johns yesterday was saying how Read Marnie now risks his legacy being just that. That he's a grub. When he should be in the Origin conversation. Because Ben Hunt isn't going to play forever. He'll be 35 next year. So, and he is playing good enough football to be in that conversation. But you know, does Billy Slater like that sort of stuff?
Well, I would imagine Origin, those are the sort of, walking that fine line and maybe conceding the odd penalty. In Origin, you can't do that.
No,
You'll get punished. So I'd imagine Billy would be wary about taking a chance on Read Marnie, given sometimes what he does backfires. I mean, more often than not, he wins that verbal battle and that mental battle, but occasionally in Origin you've got to be really disciplined, otherwise you get punished.
I just look back on the Origins of old, right? So we had like Justin Hodges was just a king at this. I feel like he just kind of, if he finds that line of how to get under someone's skin without getting punished without losing it.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect
pretty good at
sweet
this
spot.
year, to be fair.
Yeah,
well,
I think that's the sweet spot, and I think that would be, as much as, you know, I don't want to see it, but that would be perfect for Queensland.
And what about, you had a little item about JWH, Gerald Rear-Hargraves today?
Yeah, there was...
he's escaped with a little slap on the wrist, JWH.
Third and subsequent offence, but I think it was a grade 1 charge, so he got a $3,000 fine with an early plea for that shoulder to Thomas McHaley. I mean, during the game, most people missed it, including myself, but there were replays at halftime, and it looked, he doesn't miss. Like, he goes in, he launches himself, but obviously the match review committee doesn't think it warrants a suspension, though, even though at the time, all the commentary was out, you know, that Jared's in for another lengthy stint, but no, fine.
There you go, play on, move on.
Yeah, I guess.
Now let's get to the really intriguing part of the show. What do you got?
No, let's put our hands up. How many tips did you get right this week?
2.
Oh, I got Canberra right.
1.
I got 0.
0.
No, I think I got 2. Hold on, I'm just gloating that I tipped Canberra because most people would tip the Dolphins.
I took Canberra.
Couldn't believe it.
I tipped Canberra and I tipped... That's it. 1.
Yeah, I got 2.
I really wanted to tip Parra and then I just chickened out.
Oh, wow. Parra and Canberra, they were my 2.
Wow.
Boom. Easy. Charging up the leaderboard. Now, what are you watching, Pam? What do you got for us this week? What are you watching?
I don't know if anyone has seen this. Alone.
I've seen
SBS
flashes of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. I am obsessed with it. So they drop contestants in some remote area in Australia. They're by themselves. Obviously, it's called Alone.
Yep.
They can take 10 items with them. So whether that's, you know, tarp, rope,
You've got to take a tarp, don't you?
Yeah, or they some
and a flint. You've got to take a flint. Got to have fire.
Yeah, little bits and pieces. Some people take, you know, fishing wire or
clever.
things like that,
Yeah.
because then that's all you've got. And the aim of the game is to just last out there longer than anybody else.
Where'd they drop them?
Just in remote areas of, so
Okay.
it could be just in Tasmania.
Are they all in the same area, or are they spread around the country?
Within like about, you know, the 10 Ks around each other.
But they can't, they're not actually together. They're in the same place, but they're not
far
together.
enough away that they don't know where anyone else is.
Okay.
And yeah, they've just kind of got to survive. And they're there, they've got their own, they get taught how to set up the camera. So there's no camera people, like there's no crew there with them.
How do they keep the camera charged?
I know, I was just going to say.
I don't know.
Maybe they drop off some batteries.
Solar
Power
and
maybe, if it's in Australia.
But yeah, it's so fascinating.
Because I was just going to say I'd bring a phone, but yeah.
Wins.
What do they eat?
Whatever they catch.
Wow.
So whether that's fish
I'd like to give that a go.
How do you reckon you go? Are you a camper?
No, well, I do camp because my wife likes to camp.
Okay.
I'm not a huge fan of camping.
But
you're about to say I look like a camper. Wow.
No, I was about to say you look like a
glamper.
You get the cabin, don't you?
Yeah,
no,
you look like
camp,
a glamper, not a camper.
No, we camp. I'm telling you, every year we
caravan
we camp at least
or
once.
in a
not a tent. Camping in tents.
Yeah, but in one of those exclusive, expensive
like
tents with hot running water.
The only thing we do have is one of those pop-up tents, you know, where the poles are already in there. And just very quick, I digress. Very funny story. Because a few years ago, I'd lent the poles to a friend of ours for their tent.
Yeah.
And when they returned them, I didn't put them in the tent bag. So we went camping. We drove down to Kiama area somewhere. We got there to put the tent up. We had no poles.
What did you do?
So we had to go to Bunnings and buy a new tent.
So you can't do that on Alone. You can't just go to Bunnings.
No, they'd be stuffed.
Yeah.
Anyway, what are you watching?
I'm watching Better Call Saul.
Oh, it's an oldie.
It's an oldie, but I tend to do that. I tend to circle back once everybody's forgotten about like a hit TV show because I'm late to the party.
Yeah.
So
You've never watched it before?
Never watched it before. I didn't realise. Does it have some sort of connection to Breaking Bad?
Yeah, he's the lawyer from Breaking Bad.
Okay, so I've never seen Breaking Bad.
Okay.
I've never watched either of those shows.
Well, Breaking Bad, one of the best TV shows of all time.
Yeah.
You actually
I feel like sometimes you leave your run too late for shows.
Yeah,
it's like The Sopranos. I've never watched The Sopranos, and I feel like I can't get into it. It's too late.
Also one of the great TV shows.
No, you could still watch Better Call Saul though. If you like sort of those left field, quirky legal dramas, then it's good fun.
All right, mine's not a show I'm watching at the moment, but I've watched the first 2 seasons of it. Third season's about to come on. Mayor of Kingstown. Okay. Outstanding show. I've forgotten the actor in it. What's his name again? He's the Arrow guy from...
the Arrow guy?
Yeah, he's the Black Arrow, the guy from the...
Let me Google, you tell me what
He's the Black Arrow guy.
You know, he's the Arrow guy in the Marvel movies and stuff. He's the guy who
I don't watch
he was
Marvel.
driving his snowmobile wherever he lived in his snowmobile or his snowplow landed on top of him, almost killed him.
Oh,
But
no,
he's just made
that.
season- but just made
As
season
in
3.
In his real life, he had that car accident, that really
very,
bad
very lucky
car
not
accident.
to
Yes,
die.
I know that.
I think I was,
Any of these?
yeah, that guy there. What's his name? Jeremy Renner.
Jeremy Renner. Yes, I
very
remember
good.
that story.
This show's outstanding, actually. Mary Kingstown.
Yeah.
If you get the
about?
chance, it's about. It's been a while since I watched it. He's like a fixer in a town. It revolves around prison, and he's like a fixer on the outside of the prison.
So he's not. So he's not the actual mayor, but like the mayor.
He's like the unofficial mayor of Kingstown. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's very good. So if you get the chance, do yourself a favour.
Do you know when the
Kingstown.
third season's out?
Season 3, I think it's out today. So watch the first 2 seasons first.
Is that what you're going to be doing for the
Jump
next?
on season 3. I'll binge that. I'll be up till 2 a.m. tonight binging, watching the whole show.
Always.
All right.
Anyway, thanks for joining us. Enjoy Origin this week, and we'll see you next week.